You're listening to Cowboy Corner. I'm Red Steagall here in the bunkhouse with Jake and Badger and old Dan and Leon and all the rest of the boys and my special guest, Minnie Lou Bradley. And Minnie, you know, in this bunkhouse, it usually stinks pretty bad.
I understand.
I don't know what those boys use, but it smells pretty good to me. Cleaned it up for you.
I would be disappointed if it smelled like what some houses do.
We're not used to having a lot of ladies in the bunkhouse, you know.
Yeah.
And in fact, do you like coffee?
I drink it in the morning. Just, I think a habit, drinking with the cowboys.
Well, you want some right now?
No, thanks. I'm full. No.
Well, Badger's going to pour you a glass of water then because he's got to pour something.
Okay.
So here he comes.
That'll be great.
Minnie, first of all, today you're helping represent the Angus breed. And I'm really excited about doing these shows because I want to know about the Angus breed. And first of all, I want to know how long your family's been associated with the Angus breed.
Well, Red, I married into a Hereford family, but I was an Angus breeder before then. I've had Angus cattle since 1946, came up through the 4-H rank showing Angus steers and raising heifers. And so I'm from Oklahoma. I was raised in Oklahoma and went to Oklahoma State. And came down here, met a boy at college, came down here, and his folks had Hereford cattle, commercial Hereford cattle. And I told his daddy they need to get some black bulls. That was back in the early 50s. And they did. They had me. They said, "Well, you go buy us some Angus bulls." So they started crossbreeding on the Herefords, and then we got married in '55. And during the drought, had that old ranch come back that we bought, and so in 1956 we bought some commercial cows and. Calves brought 20 cents a pound the next year. Never will forget it. And we hadn't come out of the drought yet. And I finally told my husband, I said, I don't think we're going to be able to make it on this little ranch. And if we ever have any kids and educate them and everything, maybe it's time for Angus bulls to come to West Texas. So we bought a group of cows and started from there and have bred them up ever since. And the most interesting thing is yesterday we have a bull several people are interested in, a yearling bull. And one man ran him back and he said, "Do you know his pedigree goes back to a cow that was calved in 1959 on your ranch?" And,
no kidding.
You're right, yeah. And so we're really tickled about we've just kept breeding up for better cattle all along.
And where do you live exactly?
We live about 25 miles northwest of Childress, Texas. Well, I say that. As the crow would fly, it'd probably be over about 12, but we got to get across the Red River. So anyway, we live right in between Memphis, Childress, and Hollis, Oklahoma.
Well, that's awfully good cow country.
Yeah, it's the best. It is.
That grass is awfully strong.
It is. It is. You just take care of it. It'll take care of you and the cows both.
You bet. I grew up in the Panhandle of Texas.
I thought so.
Amarillo. I remember lots and lots of cattle from North Texas and South Texas came to the Panhandle in the wintertime because that grass was so strong.
Oh, yeah. A lot of cattle comes up and down that 287 highway.
Yeah. Well, we're awfully glad you joined us today, and I want to tell the folks that I had the distinct pleasure of being with you one day in Fort Worth when you were inducted into the Cowgirl Hall of Fame.
That was quite an honor for me, something I never dreamed would happen.
Well, it's something nobody can take away from you.
Well, I'm awfully proud of it. I really am.
I know you are, and we're proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Let's go back and talk about the history of the Angus breed, where it originated, how it got to America, and how it got to West Texas.
Well, the interesting thing is, and I don't know why, and I tried to find my old breedings book from 1949 when I was a freshman in college, and I couldn't find it the other day. But Shorthorns, I know Shorthorns came over first, and then the Herefords. The Angus came over in 1873. A fellow brought him over he was an Englishman. Well, he was really a Scotchman, but they called him an English businessman and banker. And I guess he's a pretty sharp old boy. And he settled in Kansas, Victoria, Kansas, and the Kansas Pacific Railroad granted him 100,000 acres around there, too. Yeah, and he was going to settle it in the same year that I didn't know this, same year as Bob Bars invaded. And so I think he realized it's going to be settled and cattle were going to go west. And so he brought three bulls over in 1873 and crossed them with longhorns. And when those calves hit the ground, people, they said, were just ecstatic. They couldn't believe they were black, they were polled, and when they took them to Kansas City to the market, they really liked them. So they thought they had something there. And in 1878, I believe it was, then two men brought over a bull and 5 cows. So that's the beginning of the Angus breed in the United States. And they all thought, they were just settling the West. And they thought there'd be a place for cattle. But they really didn't make their inroads into the Southwest. Like I say, in the 1950s, that was Hereford country. You can name all those big ranches out where we live. That was solid Hereford country. And then they started crossbreeding a little bit. And in the later 50s, and I think this is what brought the Angus breed around, they started doing some what we call AHIR, performance testing. And, of course, the Angus Association has just grown from there with all the performance work and information. It's the information world now. And they went through, they've been through it all, like most of the associations, going and coming. I think it was in 1963 was the biggest year, a little over 450,000. It's settled down now to registering about 280,000 a year.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's all it's about. Yeah, you would think more, but
my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I want to play a song called "Little Joe the Wrangler's Sister Nell," and Skip Gorman does this for us. And you know the song "Little Joe the Wrangler," and it supposedly took place up in that country where you live, along the Red River.
A lot of history along the Red River.
You bet there is. So the Angus actually came west then in the 1870s.
Yes.
And were they readily accepted?
No. A lot of them were not accepted because, they were too little. In fact, I got out of school in 1952 and went straight to work for the Texas Angus Association. And the thing that struck me, of course, I was a little farm girl from Oklahoma and showed calves and didn't know a lot about anything. And these old ranchers from Texas would call in to the office and talk to me and want to know if I could find them some Angus Bulls. And I'd say yes. And they said, well, are they the show type or are they the kind that make me money? And I thought, that was just really something for me to learn. I thought, what's the difference? It ought to be the same. And that's what they suffered with for so long, is the show ring. I always said one man's opinion in a false atmosphere in one day determined what bull everybody wanted to use. And so they wised up. And, of course, the Angus cow is just a great cow. She's got great mothering ability, milk, and she's going to poll those calves while the bull poll a calf. So they had a lot of good things going for them, but they like the other breeds, And I guess when I was on the Angus board, and every time I go to St. Joe and go in the library, it was Shorthorns were dominant. They fell by the wayside. Then the Herefords came along, and they were very dominant, and they're still here, but the Angus took over, and it was a stark reminder to all of us on the board, and we reminded ourselves of that every time. What do we need to do to stay on top? And I think it's the information that we're able to get out to them.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. Right now, we're going to take a break. You folks stay with us. We'll be right back with more of Cowboy Corner. My special guest is my friend, Minnie Lou Bradley, and I'm so proud she's here. We're coming right back.